Next up at UFC Vegas 37, we have Impa Kasanganay versus Carlston Harris. Impa Kasanganay, 9-1 overall, coming off of a win, and right before that was on the wrong side of the knockout of the absolute century. The absolute century. You have seen that highlight a million times, but he did bounce back from that really well with a win, and congrats to him because he is forever, I mean literally forever, going to be a highlight reel. Carlston Harris, 16-4 overall, riding a 4-fight win streak. Impa Kasanganay, as I mentioned, famously on the wrong side of that amazing Joaquin Buckley knockout. And we're going to break down Joaquin later. He's also on this card. Thankfully for Impa, he's much more than that highlight. He's much more than that highlight, and he proved it in his last fight when he came out. He's honestly pretty good everywhere. He has really good technical striking. He can wrestle, and he's got solid power. His issue is he waits. He waits. He's got that power. He's got the technical striking, but he takes his time. He is not always throwing when he should throw. He's a little bit gun shy at times, and I know he's picking his shots, and the problem is as he's looking for the right shots, he can fall behind on the scorecard. So while he's waiting for the perfect shot, while he's trying to set up the perfect strike, he can then tend to fall behind, be behind on strikes, be behind on volume. The judges see that, and all of a sudden, now he's playing a catch-up game. Carlston is a good wrestler. Carlston Harris is a very good wrestler. He has wild striking. I did not say good striking. I said wild. He throws with reckless abandon, and it's really there just to set up his takedowns. That is his game plan. Takedowns, nothing else. That's all he wants to do is get those takedowns. As far as his wrestling is concerned, he's absolutely relentless. He will not stop. He will come charging in, looking for takedowns, and he's not going to stop until he gets one. When he gets to the ground, he's more than capable, and he uses his length to lock things in. He's super long, awkwardly long, and he uses that reach. He uses that length to work on, those type of submissions, anacondas, things like that, where length really matters. Listen, this is a hard fight to pick. It really is, because Impa's striking is light years ahead of Carlston Harris. Impa has good takedown defense. Those two things, I mean, if you can stop the takedown, 100% Impa wins. There's no questions about that at all. He's not going to lose the striking match to Carlston Harris. The problem is, Carlston Harris is just literally relentless. He will not stop until he gets takedowns. He will throw wild haymakers that potentially could land and then just shoot 1 million takedowns until he finally gets one. And once he gets one, Impa's not going to have too much to offer on the ground, honestly. He's got decent wrestling, but once he hits the mat, he's not exactly going to scramble his way to an armbar or triangle off his back. So it's a tough fight to pick. He's by far, Carlston Harrison's by far the better wrestler, but he has no power. Impa also doesn't really have power. Really, really good technical striking, but I think he has to put Carlston Harris out, has to put his lights out to stop those relentless takedowns, and he's not going to put his lights out. He hasn't put anybody's lights out. He's got the power, but for some reason, it's not really, he looks like he has power, and when he's landing some of those shots, you're like, ooh, but they're not, nobody's getting put out. And again, he has to put Carlston Harrison out to get him off of his back. Honestly, the pick is going to have to be Carlston Harris. He's very one-dimensional. But again, Impa has to stop the takedowns and win a striking match. And the reality is, if he's not a threat for the knockout, I don't know how he's going to stop all of those takedowns that entire time. The pick's going to stay Carlston. Impa's at Sanford MMA, and Impa's, we've seen what they can do with people's wrestling. We've seen them turn mediocre fighters into killers. We just saw, not that he was a mediocre fighter, but we just watched Derek Brunson beat Darren Till using his wrestling. So he may improve on the Impa's wrestling and may be able to defend these takedowns, get a few of his own. But honestly, I'm a wrestler. I'm going to side with the relentless, nonstop wrestling of Carlston Harris. And if we take a look at DraftKings, Carlston Harris, $7,300. That's not bad, man. Takedowns are 5 points. 5 points. So listen, get a couple takedowns in there. All of a sudden, you rack up some solid points. Off his back, Impa is not going to have much to offer, and he's not exactly a knockout artist. So I don't see Impa scoring that 100-plus points that you would want out of a fighter that's almost $9,000. And Carlston Harris has a ton of upside with the nonstop wrestling. The betting odds are much, much closer and much more in line than the DraftKings prices. Monkey knife fight. Ooh, my gut's gonna say more because I think this is gonna be a full 3-round fight. Impa's not putting anybody away. Carlston Harris might, but I do think this may go the full 3 rounds. The only number here that concerns me is Impa's. 63 strikes is like right there where it's not a lot, but it's also more than nothing. Not that made a ton of sense, but if Carlston Harris is just going to nonstop wrestle and hold down Impa, or at least hold him against the cage and then shoot takedowns, and he's going to stifle some of that volume, getting to 63 might be a little tricky. My gut is saying more and more because I think there'll be some solid back and forth. Impa is absolutely, this is a close fight. So Impa is absolutely going to have his moments, get some shots off. I imagine this will be a distance fight. I like Carlston Harris to win this fight. I keep going back to it because Impa's striking is so good, and he does have takedown defense, and he's at Sanford. But Carlston he's just laser focused. I'm going to get those takedowns no matter what. And I just have to believe he's going to get them. So Carlston Harris is the pick. I'm going to have to say more and more on Monkey Knife Fight. And DraftKings, honestly, even if you think Impa wins, I wouldn't touch the $8,900. How do you see him getting to 100 points, which is what you want? How do you see him getting there? It's not going to get there by knockout. It hasn't happened before. I don't think Carlston's going to be the one that is put away by knockout. Carlston Harris is my pick. The relentless wrestling is going to get it done. Impa is a great fighter, great technical striker. He's a little too hesitant at times, and that hesitation may cost him some takedowns and cost him the fight. wewantpicks.com. Grab a promo for any of the crap that I'm pushing. Help us out. Let's move on to the next fight.